purpose of this show is trying to help people who may have become addicted to opioid pain medication like I did. I did become the proverbial functioning addict, and they made me feel great until they didn't anymore. If we can help even one person with the information that's shared on this podcast, then it's all worth it. So we're back with Season 2 of the Dare Me podcast, hoping that our humble little podcast can make even one little iota of difference in trying to reduce the fatalities even further. And we're convinced the way that we do that is by talking about it. That's where it all starts. We're hoping that our special guest today might help shed a little bit of light on that. We're going to bring him in right now. My friend Eric Taylor, welcome to the Dare Me podcast, Eric. I am so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. When you go to a main meeting in any convention, no less a world convention, the amount of people and the countdown. I mean, it still sends chills through my.
I know.
Just to see that many people, and then when they do the countdown, and they try to make everybody involved by doing that. Then this way, I got 1 day, I got 5 days, I got 10 years, and then for the people that are new to see the people that have been here for decades and decades and decades. 50 years, 60 years.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Well, originally from New York, been living in Central Florida for a long time, and take it from there, bro.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I was the youngest of four. My mom was a barmaid. My dad was a drunk.
And now, part 2 of our interview with recovery advocate Eric Taylor on the Dare Me podcast. Let me, if I may, Eric, since we're having a great conversation, I like this, talk about those steps again. Those steps. Because, again, for someone who may not be familiar, maybe someone, had an injury of some sort or just start fucking around, taking the pills, using for social reasons, whatever, and have finally realized, oh, God, if I don't take this shit, I start getting sick. Nah, what the fuck? I got to get off of this shit, That's how I would think, and looking for information. Don't know anything about 12 steps. So people might say, well, I don't deal with no fucking steps or going to no goddamn meeting. I just want to get off of this shit, man. I want my life back. You know what I mean? So where I'm going with it, as you and I both know, and I've shared this on this podcast a few times, there's that old saying, you've heard it, any old asshole can get clean, go into detox, go into rehab, or as I sometimes say, because I legit seriously thought about doing this, handcuff your arms to the bedpost and toss the key to the other side of the room along with your phone so you can't get out of, to get to the dope man. You know what I mean? You'll get clean, you just got to go through it. But as the other part of that saying goes, how the fuck you going to stay clean? And so when you hear people talk about the steps, that is, for this person at least, how we stay clean. Now, you've heard it, if you know, many times said that, the 12-step programs are not a religious program. No. That's not a religion. They are considered spiritual programs, and there is mention of God and things to that nature. And, I remember, especially as a younger man, thinking that, it's going to scare certain people away. What I think of the steps as is a way to help people get some peace in their life. But you know what? You said something.
The steps introduce you to you.
Yes.
I mean, because it makes you take a look at yourself, the harm that you did, your part in that, because not everything, and it's funny how a lot of people think that, like when they do a fourth and fifth step, like it's only about, the shit that you've done and all the bad. I mean, when I remember early on, my first my second sponsor, telling me to do like a what do you call it again? Good and bad.
Gratitude list?
No, not a gratitude list.
Pros and cons?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. And I'm turning around and like I could boom cons, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, yeah.
And I couldn't think nothing good about
no
me.
Assets.
No
yeah.
assets and defects.
Yeah,
I mean, the defects I had a list, and he turned around and what he told me to do was go to your peers. Talk to your peers about like the things that they think that you're like there's an asset, like you're a good listener, you're this, you're that, like and how to turn that that defect into an asset.
You know what, Eric? I'm so glad you said that the way you did, because as you know, one of the steps, not that we're getting into a step study here, but you get to step 8 and it talks about making amends for the things we've done that have harmed others without, harming them by working on this amends.
And others, and a lot of times you're others.
That's exactly where I was just going with that. We're taught to.
And sometimes you can't turn around and go back to that drug dealer that you ripped off and say I ripped you off. You might get shot. You can't go to the store that you robbed and say I was the one who robbed you. But what you could do is other things. Maybe, paint their wall outside, clean their lot, or something. Like do something. Go to a supermarket and collect the shopping carts. Do things, and just staying clean and not repeating the things that we've done is automatically,
making amends.
Making amends, like in another way, because sometimes you can't make those amends because some of the people are dead.
Well, you know what, Eric? You gotta indulge me for just a couple of minutes, because I love listening to you talk, man. First of all, I love your New York accent. I always have, you know what I mean? But like I said, man, I have met people in the rooms and really my whole life. I have been so blessed. I mean, really, to have met some of the most fascinating people in my life. And I'm talking people from Park Place to Park Bench and everywhere in between, as we say, because I used with people at Park Place and Park Bench. And, as I say, man, the funny thing is, for me, I tend to get along better with the people on the Park Bench. I've been to both, and, just met some most fascinating people. And Eric, certainly you fit that rock star status, man. But where I was going with it is, you've also, I'm sure, learned along the way and heard that when we start to write that list of people we think we owe amends to, that's part of the work you were talking about.
Forget to put ourselves first.
We're told to put ourselves at the top of the list. And you know what? That was hard for me to do, and the reason I brought it up is because you reminded me of it when you said, talk to your peers, because there's that old saying that I learned around the rooms, man. We can be our own worst enemy. My first sponsor, Chester, I'll never forget him telling me, having the meeting, after the meeting, drinking coffee at the Denny's, saying, just hearing me out and let me go till I ran out of gas, and saying to me, God damn, Glenn, it must be a trip living in your head. Turn off the ass-kicking machine and give yourself a break. And I was glad to hear you said it earlier, Eric. You said, I'm not perfect. And that's where I was going with it earlier. When it comes to doing the work and trying to incorporate these steps and traditions into our life, nobody's perfect at doing it.
Nope.
I'm certainly not. Show me the first perfect person, We go through fluctuations, Some days I'm better at doing it than others. You follow what I mean? But again, where I was going, which I really wanted to kind of elaborate on this topic a little bit more, is because when it comes to those steps, if you're new, find them and read them. Just Google 12 steps and read through the 12 steps. If you're a family member trying to help someone, a loved one, a colleague, whatever, read through those steps if you're not familiar with them, because it'll help you to understand where your person is in their journey of trying to have some peace in your life. Because what we know is if people who truly are real ones don't find some peace in their life, they will get a case of what we call the fuck it's and say, fuck this shit. I can't do this, man. I'm too miserable. Fuck all that. Give me a drink. Give me, let's get high. You get what I'm saying?
You've seen me cry in meetings.
Well, you've seen me cry. I've cried on this fucking podcast. People say, oh, God, Clay, you're going to become known as the crier, But you know what? As I've often said on here too, Eric, you know this old saying, when you get clean, there's good news and not so good news. The good news is all your feelings and emotions come back. The not so good news is all your feelings and emotions come back. But you know what? Isn't that a beautiful thing? Because when we're just putting stuff on top of them feelings and stuffing it and stuffing it and stuffing it. And so now we're experiencing all these feelings. And, I've saw, clips online, TikTok and shit, recovery reels where people say, hey, man, sobriety and clean, that's the new high, because, when you're used to living with numbing them feelings all them years and now all of a sudden they all come back, it's like a whole new way of living. But anyway, going back to what we were talking about, I always like to show my tattoo.
Oh.
S2M2. Now, do you know what that stands for, Eric?
You told me, I forgot.
Yeah, I told you before. So I actually got the idea from this talented singer. Oh, my God, I just love her to death. I've been following her for several years. Julia Michaels. She's a pop singer in her 20s. Pretty girl. She's written songs for some of the most famous artists like Justin Bieber and, Gwen Stefani. I could go on, literally, but she's so talented herself, too. But anyway, a few years ago, she put out a song called Sorry to Me Too. Yeah. Now, her song's kind of based on a relationship, what have you, but I latched onto that saying.
That is a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's true. But so I went out and got the tattoo. It was painful. I got several tattoos. That was the one that hurt the most, right on the palm of the hand. But I wanted to put it right there. It's a constant reminder because I can't, how can I not see it every day to do exactly what we were just talking about. I had to make amends to myself. I have peace with myself, as I often say, when you get to an NAAA or 12-step meeting, man, you didn't end up there by mistake or by accident.
Nope.
It's usually because your life is not so well. Something is fucked up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's, something like what you alluded to earlier, Eric. We lose our self-esteem because we can't believe our own behavior. Like, I can't believe I did that. Like that saying I learned around the room. Man, if I talk to other people the way I talk to myself sometimes, I wouldn't have any friends. So, yeah, man, sorry to me, too. You got to put yourself at the top of that amends list. Yeah. And remember exactly what you said, Eric. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But for some reason, some of us just want to be our own worst enemy, and we can't, forgive ourselves sometimes for our own mistakes. Mm-hmm. And for some of us, it takes a while to realize that that's how we learn in this life, by making mistakes and then hopefully not make the same mistakes again, So yeah, man, I appreciate you talking about the steps. And then you alluded to, too, about, we get better by sharing this message and giving it away.
Part of my story, the last 10 years of my story is being a house manager in a transitional house.
Yes, talk to us about that a little bit.
That was me having the opportunity to try, because all I could do is try to help some guys. When I left, I was managing two houses, 6 in one, 8 in the other, 14 guys, and and sometimes it was difficult. Sometimes it was really rewarding. To see some of these guys succeed in life, and then I've also seen some
People who
relapse.
didn't make it, they relapsed or died from an overdose.
Had the opportunity to Narcan a few.
Yep.
That OD'd right in the house.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
And having to be the person that they have nowhere to go, and I have to put them out.
Wow. Yeah.
Like
That tough love decision. You can't enable somebody to death.
It's funny because the position that I had, where I was, in a couple of months, they've already been through 5 people that replaced me.
Wow.
I mean, it just goes to show it takes a certain type of person to do that type of job.
Yeah.
Like a certain temperament. Like you can't be a very angry person because But what I tried to do is I gave the guys rides to meetings. I sat down and tried to communicate with everybody that came in the house. This way, if they had a problem, maybe they might come to me. Hey, listen, this is what's going on. Like I've had, listen, something came up, man. I'm not going to be able to make the rent this week. I'm going to get kicked out. Hold your horses. Explain your situation. We'll try to work with you. Trying not just to put them out because then it seems like it's only about the money. But I did that for a while. I've had some difficulties. I've had guys that wanted to fight. And eventually, I turned around. I'm 70 years old, man. I don't want to work anymore.
Well, you know what? I get it because you're not doing that now, and there comes a time when you want to retire. Fuck, I'm retired now, even though this podcast has taken on a life of its own and become like a full-time thing. But you know what? That's okay because, you said something there, Eric, that I totally relate to when it comes to this podcast. Sometimes there's hard times and then there's great times, like right now I'm having a blast. I always say doing the show is the fun part. It goes by like that and you just go, oh my God, did we just do that? But there's a lot of work that goes into the prep and then the marketing after and everything else. But the point I'm making is that it's similar in a way to what you talked about. We're both giving back, and that's something I wanted to talk to you about a little bit too earlier is that you mentioned something about making amends to people and you just can't. Maybe they've even passed away or what have you, And it reminded me of a story where I was working on this with, you remember my old sponsor, may he rest in peace, Tom Bradley from the Living Sober group up in Apopka. I used to go. That was an AA meeting. I was going there for several years. And we got to a point of talking about, making amends and things to that nature. And I've admitted this on this program before. I ain't no drug dealer. I never set out to be a drug dealer. But guess what? When I was hooked, I did sell some drugs to support my habit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm the only one, right? Yeah, believe me, there's a lot of people sitting in the pokey right now who got arrested for dealing drugs who had no intention of being a drug dealer or selling drugs.
Selling drugs.
Well, that's and you hear it all the time, that people start selling drugs to support their own habit.
Yep. That was my best customer.
I did it when I was younger, and so start talking about that. This is where we talk about the healing process and getting better through the steps and the work that you were talking about, Eric, that I kind of put you on the spot about. This is the kind of work as you stay clean. That's most important. Above all, don't use.
Yeah.
Because if you're using, it defeats the whole purpose.
Absolutely.
But once you get clean and you want to have peace, you start working on some of these other things, because sometimes, and I'm, Dean, you've said this before on this show, and I keep trying to remember to clarify this each time, and I always seem to forget that we ain't no medical experts.
No.
We ain't no psychological experts or nothing like that. But as you mentioned earlier, Eric, we've lived that shit, so we know a little something about it. And what happens, sometimes is that we even subconsciously will carry things around that fuck with our peace that ain't going to go away unless we begin to work on it. And so where I was going with that whole thing, Eric, is so me and Tom were talking, I told him, I said, Tom, God, man, I feel a certain amount of guilt about some of the drugs that I was involved with dealing, because I have no idea whose fucking hands some things ended up in, Eric. For all I know, they could have ended up in the hands of school kids or whatever else, and for all I know, somebody could have got a hold of some of that shit. And we sometimes at meetings will say, let's have a moment of silence for the people who will pick up something for the very first time tonight, not knowing what they're getting themselves into. Well, what if that might have been some of the shit I sold? I don't fucking know. So, I'm a grown-ass man now. I have feelings. We talked about it, and all that kind of stuff. And, man, I think, oh, good God, what the fuck? So how do, I asked Tom, how do you make amends for something like that? And like you talked about, sometimes the only way you can do it.
It's saying I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's about how do I make it right?
Exactly.
If you stole money, replace it. If you broke something, fix it. Mm-hmm. If you can't, that's when there's other ways.
Or another way to put it might be like paying it forward.
Yes.
So believe me, bro, you've heard me say this before. Some days I'll be like, oh, good God, what have I got myself into with this fucking podcast? I'm supposed to be retired now, and I got this full-time hobby now. And I do enjoy doing it. I have fun. And the feeling you get knowing when you've helped someone, it's just, I can't even begin to describe it. This thing's taken on a life of its own.
About 8 years ago, I was at the Daytona convention. I was on the boardwalk with a bunch of my friends. We were going to eat, and this young lady comes over to me, and she thanked me. I was like, for what?
Yeah.
She said 5 years ago.
Wow.
She was leaving, still working on it, and I stopped her.
Yeah.
And she got 5. Now she's got 13 years. But that kind of stuff. You were the person who brought the message to me in treatment. Because I've spoken at some jails and institutions and stuff like that, and I always get a feeling out of that. Wow, because I spoke at Sing Sing.
Wow, no kidding. And where you mentioned, Eric, I know you don't mind me asking, you were in prison. Where did you spend your time in prison?
Greenhaven Correctional Facility.
Okay.
That's upstate New York.
Upstate New York.
And now, going on my way up there, we passed through Sing Sing on my way to go to prison.
Okay.
And to come back and carry a message there.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Same thing with I went and spoke at Brooklyn House of Detention. I was there for 7 months. Mm-hmm. Right? I spoke at what is it again? Rikers Island.
Wow.
And I also I remember my brother getting my brother clean, and before he even got clean, asking me, he says, "Oh, can you bring me some NA literature and some girly magazines?" I says, okay.
Typical prison guy, right?
Yeah. So I turned around. I brought both. When I got there, they said he can have one or the other. What do you think I gave him?
Well,
the NA literature, and he was pissed.
Yeah.
Because he could have, got cigarettes or something with the girly magazine.
Yeah.
The NA literature was, but it ended up getting him clean. When he came out, he fucked up a little bit more, and then he turned around and said, I brought him to treatment. Actually, both of my brothers to treatment, and they both came out 30 days later, and I cried at the first meeting I walked in with both of them.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine.
Tears of joy.
Yeah.
And never thought it was going to be possible. And one of my brothers today is no longer with us.
Oh, sorry
he
to
died
hear
in
that.
2021.
I knew about that.
COVID got him because of the lifestyle. But the other one's still clean. 25 years later.
Wow.
And
yeah. Well, Eric, I appreciate you telling that story, because it's stories like that will keep you coming back once something like that happens to you. Because, I've had that happen more times than I could even explain just with the podcast, let alone my time in the program, because I'm an H&I kind of guy.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, that stands for the Hospitals and Institutions Committee for whatever program it might be, right? And so we call it H&I. Those are separate meetings from what we call the open meetings on, the meeting list or on the outside. It's usually a panel of people that'll go into a jail, a prison, a treatment center, a rehab center, and, tell their story. And so I can't tell you how many times, Eric, I've gone in and spoken at H&I meetings and have had people come up to me at the gas station, to 7-Eleven, much less a meeting, and say, bro, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming in, man. I got 7 days clean now or whatever,
Before I moved to Florida, me, my mom, and my daughter used to go downtown. We used to go eat lunch at least a couple of times a week, and she always used to tell me, how do you know all these people?
Yeah.
The people, not that they, we're flashing NA or anything like that, but, and I told her from meetings, and then she reminded me of a time.
Yeah.
When every time I walked down the street, even if I was walking down the block with my mom, they tossed me up against the wall.
Yeah,
Especially after a gun charge. And every time they see me, they wanted to toss me. Yeah. I said, "You're not getting anything else out of me. I'm done."
Yeah.
And to the police officer that rescued me. I'm not saying arrested, rescued.
Yeah.
Used to tell his, the other officers that when I walked down the block, people didn't duck me anymore. And he said, "Yeah, I arrested. Look at him now."
Mm-hmm. So, Eric, let me ask you this, and I love the way this conversation is just kind of fishtailed all over the place, because that's how we are, you know what I mean? And we've been going a while. I know, Dean, you're watching the clock. We've got a little longer than we usually do, but that's okay, you know what I mean? Because, Eric, you and I, man, we could talk about, that's the thing. You meet people in the programs, man, you start talking recovery, you talk about this stuff for hours, all night,
How do you talk about 35 years of recovery in a little bit of time?
Exactly. And so
and add in some time of like active addiction.
It's hard to do.
It is to turn compartmentalize.
It's very hard. We've been talking a lot about newcomers. I can sit and talk about suggestions for newcomers. I could do a 4-hour show just on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know what you mean. It's a challenge. Like, I just spoke. I was invited to speak at your home group a few weeks ago, and I don't really stress about it anymore because I have shared my story so many times. But when you've been around for a long time, it's a challenge because you think, well, God, I could talk about so many things, man. Like we talked about the conventions. I could sit here and tell convention stories for hours. So with all that said, Eric, I thought you did an outstanding job, by the way, introducing us to how your story started, and you got involved in the program. You ran into some trouble, but you pulled yourself out of it and things of that nature. And I know you don't mind me saying so I'm going to say it. You're one of them guys who's been around for a long time that still goes to meetings regularly. Maybe not every single night, but you go regularly.
4 or 5 times a week.
Now, I know other people, and you know them as well. They're still clean, but they don't go to meetings hardly at all. I know people, we know some of the people,
Once a year to pick up the medallion.
They can't stand, they don't like going to meetings. See, now, I love going. For me, a lot of the challenge is just getting there because I stay so busy. I mean, I do everything. Like I said, man, I got my program and my recovery. My program is part of my recovery. I go to the gym regularly. I do yoga. I'm involved in music. I work on this podcast. I do, all the other things, because I've rebuilt this life. You know what I'm saying? That when you come in the program, man, you don't have a whole lot going on. So, but anyhow, with all that said, man, you've done an outstanding job. I'm kind of sort of in the middle of that. I don't go every day, but I don't go just once a week. I got to go plug in. And as we say, to use that cliche around the rooms, get that checkup from the neck up. And the main thing for me that I love about going to meetings, and this might sound mean and evil, and I swear to God I don't mean it that way. I have all the compassion for in the world for people like us. I love seeing the newcomers come in. And I'll use another cliche, as we say, I also love seeing them tore up from the floor up. And again, that's not me being mean. That's me saying that is a great reminder to me that I do not want to go back to living like that again. And so, yeah, it's great to go to the meetings, meet the friends like we talked about, socialize, read the literature, share a little bit or whatever. But, man, when I see them newer people come in and they're looking rough and their legs are shaking, they're dope sick in the meeting. Where else you going to see that, And so It's a great reminder to me. So with all that said, Eric, I know it's the same for you, but I wanted to touch on a couple stories in the news before we wrap up, maybe get your perspective on it. But before we go into that, give us a summary, if that's the right word, about what works for you. We don't give advice around the rooms or whatever, but for someone new who's maybe not familiar with the 12-step rooms or recovery in general, what suggestion, what inspiration, hope might you share with them, and maybe just elaborate a little bit more on what has worked for you.
One of the most important things is to sit there and listen. A lot of times we really don't listen to what's being said. And even if like they told me a long time ago that if you don't like the person that's sharing, close your eyes.
Yeah. And listen for the golden nugget.
Listen for the message, not the messenger.
Yes.
And what's really that has worked for me. The getting with people after the meeting. And it's really important. It's really important to come early, just to get there early.
It is.
But the most important thing is to stay late and try to get involved in what's going on, the activities that's always been still is important to me. Like I said, some meetings I went to just for the activity, just to go out to eat or just to go to the movies or go bowling or go shoot pool or whatever, just to be around my friends because they are my friends now.
Yeah.
And the more I stay around, the more friends I have.
Yes.
And I have, oh my God, tons and tons of friends,
around the country and other parts of the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when COVID hit, forget about it, man.
Zoom
I
meetings.
started doing Zoom, and I was, Zooming in New York, and I was in California, and I was in here, and I was here, and I spoke in California, I spoke here, I spoke there. It's not the same to me. I'm glad it's there for the people that can't make it to meetings regularly. But for me, this is just for me.
No. A lot of people feel this way. I know what you're going to say.
Its purpose.
Yeah.
For me.
Yep.
I would rather go to a meeting, see a person eye to eye, face to face, and a hug.
Yep.
I did Zoom. I did the first little over 2 years every day.
Yep.
7 days, 7 nights a week, 9 to 10:30. And then we hung out, we called it the parking lot afterwards.
Yeah.
And we sang and we told jokes and we
Yeah.
talked to each other and I seen people because it was a New York based group and I'm from New York and I seen a lot of people that I came in after me, some came in before me, and any given day that you go to that meeting, there's 100 people in the room. Half of them got over 30 years.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
I mean, recovery is all over the world, and meetings have done exactly what they needed to do for me, was introduce me to me and me to you.
Yeah.
Because I needed to meet you. I'm not saying you in particular.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Everybody, because
and I like the cliches. Obviously, I've said it several times on here, and I've always loved the one, man, and it's so true. Meeting makers make it. It's true. You go to meetings on a regular basis,
Yeah, well, they also say that it's a program for those who need it, who want it.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a program for those that are willing to do the work.
Yes,
Because you don't do the work, you don't reap the rewards.
Yes, that's true.
Because anything's possible if you want to do the work.
Well, you know what, Eric? I wanted to backtrack onto one other thing before we go into the news, because I think it's important. In fact, we're planning a whole edition of this show just to talk about the 13th step.
Whoa.
And there is a movie out there, documentary, I guess we'd call it, called The 13th Step.
Wow.
And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole today on this show because we're going too soon. And for those who don't know, the 13th step, because there's only 12 steps in a 12-step program, is basically a play on words of that you've heard it before if you know that going to 12-step meetings is like a pickup joint.
Yeah.
Does that go on? Fucking hey, it goes on.
Does.
You mentioned it earlier, Eric, and I was going to interject then, but I thought I'd wait because we were, really having good conversation that you get whatever you want at these meetings.
If that's what you're looking for.
If that's what you're looking for, it's not real common that there's not blatant open air drug use or dealing going on, but believe me, if you want to get dope at a meeting, you'll find it. Just keep talking to different people, and eventually you can spot them a mile away. You want to try to get a job, that's at a meeting too. You want to pick up guys, you want to pick up girls, that's at a meeting too. You want recovery? That's at a meeting too. You want to get involved in service? That's at a meeting too. So the point I'm making is, and going back to what you said earlier, Eric, I'm so glad you said it, it's like, it's not a perfect program. I'm not perfect. You said you're not perfect. There's no perfect. So people who will make them statements, see, a lot of times to me, it's the sickness trying to sabotage them right out of the fucking meeting. Because they'll say, I ain't going to fucking meeting. It's just a pickup joint, Well, guess what? But you'll go to the bar and have some drinks. Oh, that's not a pickup joint? You go to the dope house? Fuck it, I ain't going to them 12-step rooms. It's just fucking pickup joints. I'll go to the dope house and get high. Well, the same thing's going on there. So the point I'm making is exactly what you said, Eric, and I'm glad you said it the way you did. You'll get what you're looking for. Okay, you can find that shit anywhere. But if you want recovery, that's there too. And predominantly what's there. There's always the little bullshit going around anywhere. So the point, I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel like I'm being defensive about the programs when I say, don't judge it by the first meeting you go to or the first group of people. Keep coming back till you find your own tribe and all that. But when people take swipes at the program, it's like I almost take it personally. Like I said, we ain't no representatives or whatever else. But because it's been such a huge part of my life, Eric, and helped save my ass, as you know, not once, not twice, but 3 times. It ain't perfect, but I always say I will always say good things about the 12-step programs when people ask me for my opinion or input or advice or direction, because I get that all the time, because of the podcast. Like, oh, my son, Glenn, can you try to give him some... And I always try to get people to go and get involved in going to meetings. There's no silver bullet. Yeah. But sure has helped a lot of people, including you and I. So, yeah, man, Eric, I really appreciate you telling your story, coming on the show today. And now we're going to show a couple more pictures because we got some fun stuff before we get to the news. Dean, let's show that next picture because this one is kind of interesting story here to this one. Let's see, I think it's coming up here. Oh, well, this one here, I forgot we had this picture in there. We were talking about conventions and shit. And just to give people an idea, I thought this would be fun to talk about. Well, you can see, obviously, the young Glenn on the left there. That was literally me on the way to my first NA World Convention in New Orleans back in '87. And if you look, I got a cigarette in my hand. I shouldn't be laughing about it. But
is that on the plane?
That, back in them days, you could still smoke on an airplane. Yep. And then the one next to it was all the way in 2024 on the way to my 17th World NA Convention. I've been to it 17 times. Wow. But anyway, so I was telling Eric, y'all, I posted this picture on this World NA Convention group I'm in on Facebook, and there's literally thousands of people on there. So when I posted this picture, and I get to the convention, I almost felt like a celebrity walking through the lobby areas and going into meetings because so many people were on that group, saw this picture, and I thought, I was looking for pictures of you and I when I came across this one, and I said, well, I got to show that too. So anyway, what's the next one, Dean? This is the one I thought was coming up. So we got to talk about this for a minute. Now, the average viewer and, of course, listeners on, the podcast platforms can't see it, but for the YouTube viewers, Eric is holding up a couple of shirts here. Now, these might not mean a whole lot to people outside of the Central Florida area, but for people who've been around for a while in Central Florida, if you can see these, you'll get it. Now, Eric, why don't you tell us the story about the one with the Swoey shirt? What's that all about?
Yeah, well, some years back, that is the first shirt. Still working on it, had made. I don't even know exactly.
Well, now for people who don't know, what's still working on it?
It's an NA group. It was my home group for a long time, and
it's one of the oldest groups in Central Florida. Yes. If I remember right, I think it was started in like '87.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yep. So anyway, what are you holding there?
And I'm holding a shirt. Like I said, their first shirt that they made, and funny how I ended up acquiring it. Originally that shirt was given to my ex-wife.
Okay.
And when we got divorced, she didn't want to keep any of the NA stuff.
Okay.
Because she wasn't clean. I guess she didn't feel she deserved to have it. So I ended up with it, and that's, you could say, is a collector's item because there is not too many of them around, and the guy Tom who gave it to her was a good friend of ours.
Yes.
And
is a good friend of ours.
Yeah, he's still around. Yeah.
And still clean.
And it means a lot. I was asked if I would put it up at auction.
Is that right?
And I said no.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, I appreciate you telling that story. So, yeah, man, for people in Orlando area specifically, these two shirts are kind of cool and are legit collector's items because for people who don't know, still working on it, it's a meeting clubhouse here in the area. Mm-hmm. It's moved around a little bit over the years. There's long history and stories there. Yeah. But that meeting has helped countless people and
Absolutely.
families
Oh my
in
God,
Central
yes.
Florida, including yours truly. And so, yeah, meetings, develop their own identity, and we'll have T-shirts made up and sell it for, to help pay the rent or
Yeah.
whatever. And that is legit the very first T-shirt ever designed for the Still Working on It group, which is legit an institution in the Orlando area, and Eric owns it, and it's like brand new. So the one on the right, I thought this was timely. That's kind of why I wanted to bring this picture. I literally just gave you that shirt, 3 weeks ago?
Something like that.
Yeah, so here's the story on that one. I, in my never-ending journey, it seems like these past couple of years, to become a minimalist, like legit, have gotten rid of so much stuff over the years that I've had this sentimental attachment to. I have been lugging that sweatshirt around since 1991. If you look at the date on it there, it says Young and Free 1991. And as you know, Eric, it's practically brand new. It's like a brand new shirt because I never wore it. It's a little small on me. I don't think it'll fit you either.
No, no way.
But for those that know, the Young and Free group in the metropolitan Orlando area was a meeting that was technically an AA meeting, but open to all walks of recovery. So in other words, they encouraged people who had any substance abuse problem to attend their meeting and their monthly dance. And they also sponsored the big New Year's Eve dance every year. And it's a group that literally would have a couple of hundred people a month at each dance because they had this badass DJ. And man, he was like, nah. The DJ was me. I was a pretty good DJ. There's long stories there, that we can't get into tonight. But anyway, for, the sake of this conversation, I did DJ that dance for a few years. And that shirt was given to me as a gift way back in 1991 by the exact same person you mentioned, our buddy Tom D. And so I've been lugging that shirt around all these years, y'all. It is July of 2026. So that means I've been sitting on that shirt for 35 years. And I didn't have the heart to throw it away when I was going, like I said, in this process of becoming a minimalist. And I'm thinking, okay, who could I give this shirt to that might appreciate it? And so then I thought of you, Eric, and I asked you if you want it. You said, absolutely, I'll take it. So you're kind of the keeper of the archives for this area, right? So anyway, I just thought it'd be fun to talk about that and show that picture. So thanks for indulging us, everyone. All right, Dean, I think it is time for the news, if I recall correctly. Yep, that's our next slide. So on the Dare Me podcast, we do like to take a little bit of time to talk about the opioid crisis in the news, keep our fingers on the pulse of what's going on because there's something new coming at us all the time, y'all. And we also trying to keep our finger on the pulse almost as a little bit of a watchdog agency on the money and how it's being used that was generated from all the big pharma lawsuits. Tens and tens and tens and hundreds of millions of dollars that Big Pharma had to come up with to try to mitigate this problem that was created. So this first story is really almost more of like an alert than anything else. This drug is called cyclorophene. And you can see that this story just came out like a week ago. We monitor all the news sources, by the way, y'all. We don't, pick any particular news source. We don't get caught up in whether they're left-leaning or right-leaning or whatever. We don't get into politics and all that shit because we don't want to alienate nobody. We got our opinions, but nonetheless, we don't lean toward any specific news source, and this is common knowledge information. But there's this new drug out. It's been around for a little while, but now it's becoming more common. And look at this. 7 people have died from this shit in Chicago, in Cook County, which of course is where Chicago is. And look what it says, Eric. It's like 10 times more potent than fentanyl. So, and Dean, you remember, man, when we were talking about fentanyl so many times on this show, how we've shown that picture of the little pencil with the small amount of fentanyl next to it. It looks like, 5 or 6 grams of grains of sugar or salt is enough to kill someone. Mm-hmm. And now they're saying this shit is 10 times more potent? What the hell?
Wasn't it like a penny or...
Oh, yeah, a penny. Yeah, I said a pencil.
Yeah. Wasn't it like a penny? I'll see if I can find the image.
Yeah, see if you can find that image, man.
But yeah, just that. Not even the little white spot on your fingernail.
Yeah.
Imagine that much.
Yep.
Imagine that much fentanyl can kill a full-grown person.
And that's what kills me about it, because if these amateur drug dealers are trying to mix this shit up in the kitchen sink, how do you distribute that small of amount of a drug through the whole batch? I don't fucking get it. And now this shit is 10 times more potent. Oh, yeah, that's what they want now.
They want it.
That's it. They get addicted to the opioids, and you build up this resistance after you do it more and more and more over time. And so, yeah, we talk about people taking shit not knowing fentanyl's in it and all worried that they might get some shit laced with fentanyl. But you're exactly right, Eric. These hardcore opiate addicts now, that's what they want. They're seeking the fentanyl. And now this shit too. And Dean, I think there was a second part to this story. If you want to bring up the next slide, that was part of this. And then we got, because it's not just in Chicago, in Cook County. Now, see here, it says that it's a potent synthetic opioid up to 10 times stronger, like we said, and they're still analyzing the strength of this stuff, but it's new because you can see at the bottom it says it was first, brought to the DEA in 2024. Mm-hmm. So the thing of it is, yeah, man, we're out here, singing praises that the fentanyl overdose rates have come down in the last couple of years, but the drug dealers are coming out with new shit all the time. So that's why I say, even with this podcast, we were off the air with it for a couple of years, but we come back now because we're saying, yeah, okay, progress is being made, but we got to stay adamant about this, man. They're coming out with new bullshit like this all the time. So, Dean, let's go to the next one, because I just thought we'd show this, because here we're talking about Chicago. Guess what? It's the same thing up in Oregon. And you can see this story just came out a couple days ago on July 16th. And then the next one just elaborates a little bit on that headline and says by why fentanyl roared into Oregon in 2020 and is still a driving factor. Now there's this new drug called cyclorphine that's killed more than 100 people nationally just in the past year. 7 in Chicago in just the past few months. So, this is just crazy, man. There's always something new coming out there, and it's just something we got to stay on top of. So let's go to the next story, and we're coming close to wrapping it up. So, a lot of negative stuff in the news when it comes to the opioid crisis and the overdose rates and all that stuff. And it's sad. It's horrible, of course. I also thought we could share a positive story. This one, again, you can see just came out in the last week. And it's close to home here where we're at right now in Central Florida. That's where Dean's podcast studios are based, and this is Bradenton in the Tampa area. And they just received a $500,000, $500,000 grant from DCF because of their outstanding programs to help bring the opioid overdose rate and fatality rate down. And they lead the state, having brought them down 56% from 2003 to 2004. That's a huge impact. And so we're going to actually show a video in a second, Eric, because I just thought, okay, here's something that's working. What are they doing that's working so other counties, cities, and different places can maybe model themselves after that? So let's look at this next slide, because this is where they talk about, and we're going to hear about it in the video, but they are providing treatment to people absolutely free. And now they just got this $500,000 grant, but you can see it's, and we'll hear the lady talking. They've sent over 200 county residents to treatment since October of 2024. And these aren't just 30-day treatment programs, which is the most common because that's all insurance will fucking cover. They're sending people for a year and experience a great success rate with it. So, Dean, if we can, let's go ahead and play this video. Now, folks, this video, I will say, it's 3 minutes long. So, you know, indulge us here, watch this video, listen up to this because it's great information. Then we're going to come back, talk about that a little bit, and wrap the show up. Eric, I want to get your take on this. So, Dean, if we could, let's go ahead and give it a look and a listen. Check this out, y'all. Okay. From Spectrum News, by the way, in the Tampa area.
County was once known as one of Florida's hardest hit communities during the opioid crisis. Well, now it's being recognized as the state's top performing county for turning things around.
However, there are families who continue to live with the loss. Spectrum Bay News 9's Julia Hazel spoke with a Bradenton mother who says every life saved is a step in the right direction.
She was adorable. She was the most beautiful child I think I ever saw.
Flipping through photos and keepsakes, Nanette Cobb is reminded of the daughter she lost.
She was young, very young, just starting her life.
Her daughter, Nicolette, was 24 years old when she died from opioid poisoning in 2022.
She was mourning the death of my mother, her grandmother, which was like a second mother to her. And a friend had told her that they could get her a pill that would help her with mourning. And so she took one pill, one time, and there was 7 nanograms per liter of fentanyl in that pill, and 2 is deadly to a man. So she had 3.5 times the dose of fentanyl in her system.
Since then, Nanette has turned her loss into purpose, partnering with Manatee County's overdose prevention and education program.
I will absolutely go to any event with the Fentanyl Project being shown, and I think it makes a difference when the kids see an actual mother sitting there.
And this week, the county announced they will receive $500,000 from the Florida Department of Children and Families for being recognized as Florida's top-performing county for its efforts to reduce opioid-caused deaths. DCF says from 2023 to 2024, opioid-caused deaths in the county decreased by 56%.
That 56% decrease is a great start, but I think we need to get to 0.
Manatee County Commissioner Amanda Ballard says they plan on using the $500,000 towards their community health teams.
We've actually sent over 200 Manatee County residents since October of 2024 to year-long substance abuse treatment to get them the help that they need in a very real and concrete way. It's not a 30-day program, and it is free to the participants. And so we're taking away those barriers of cost for a lot of people.
The decrease is part of a broader trend for overdoses in general, not just with opioids. The Manatee County Sheriff's Office says this year all overdose deaths are down 26%.
It's just a combination of things, combination of what we're doing, targeting drug dealers, drug traffickers, and again, on the other side of it are helping the substance abuse dependent personnel.
Nanette says she's honoring the legacy her daughter left by spreading awareness and helping the county save more lives. In Bradenton, Julia Hazel, Spectrum News.
Yeah. There you go, man. Isn't that a powerful story there, Eric?
It is, man. Free treatment is a big thing, because a lot of people don't go to treatment because they can't afford it. In most places, if you don't have insurance, you can't get in.
Exactly. And what
Or
also,
if you don't have money.
yeah, and what also caught my attention, and I love this about that, it's not just a 30-day program because,
Long-term.
we always hear, treatment for 30 days, treatment for 30 days. It's not like I said earlier on the show, at the end of 30 days, they sprinkle some pixie dust on you, and all of a sudden life is great and you're happy, joyous, and free. Fuck, we wish it was that easy, don't we? We wish it was that easy. It ain't. So I love that they're providing people with the option of a long-term 1-year treatment plan.
Absolutely, that helps a lot.
Yeah, for somebody who's watching who might still be struggling and is new to this whole thing of trying to live clean and get clean and treatment and rehab and all that other shit, might sound like a long time, but guess what? There's also a saying around the program, change everything. And at the end of the day, y'all, we're talking about life and death. So, I can't go into treatment for no year. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. I got to take care of this. I got to take care of that. Well, if you're a real one, someone taught me a long time ago, Glenn, when you're trying to get clean, you got to work a selfish program. And then he explained to me the context of that statement, that for a lot of us in the recovery community, we are codependent, or we're people pleasers or enablers a lot of times, where we're running around trying to take care of everybody else to try to make ourselves feel good, and we forget about ourselves. And so the point the man made is that if we don't take care of ourselves first, we're going to lose all that other shit anyways.
Absolutely.
So if you truly have become that addicted to opioids or whatever other dope it might be that you can't stop using, but you're all worried about, I might lose my girlfriend or my old lady or my old man or that job, you're going to lose it any fucking way if you keep using. So take that year to check out of society, check out of it all, work on you, be selfish, and come out the new and improved, So, we could go on and on talking about that a lot more, but the point I'm making is what a great program they got going over in Manatee
Other
County.
counties need to take a look at that.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I'm sure there probably are other, counties out there doing great things across the country. That story just happened to be timely because it was just this week announced that they're getting this $500,000 to continue to do more of the work they're doing that is clearly making a difference. Over 50% decrease in opioid overdose fatalities. So good for you, Manatee County. Man, keep rocking and doing the good work. So, yeah, we like sharing the latest going on in the opioid crisis in the news on this show. And most times, unfortunately, it's sad stories about the one we talked about, 7 people dying in Chicago and Cook County since first of the year on this new chloroquine drug and all that. I'll also say we like sharing the good news stories too, y'all, and that's a good news story that they've got programs there working.
So Glenn,
Yes, sir.
just for Eric's benefit, because you might not have seen this, but we saw a lot of this kind of thing. I'm going to add it here. This is it. See that little bit of dust next to a penny?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what is that? A death dose?
A fatal dose of fentanyl barely even covers a spot on a penny. And, I'm so glad you found this and brought it up again, Dean, because think about it, y'all. If this chlorophene is 10 times more potent than fentanyl, it would take just a fraction of this amount to kill somebody. Isn't that insane?
I can imagine the 10 times more deadly part
That's
of
what
this.
they're saying, man. It's just like crazy. I mean, I really like, all these pictures are good, but if you look at the one in the upper right corner, that kind of puts it, I think, into a little bit better context, or even the one two below that, because it's got it like in little grains, where the other one, it's kind of like caked powder or whatever. Yeah. But if you look at these grains, it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know how these drug dealers think they can mix this in and spread it out evenly enough where,
They're only worried about the money.
Yeah, well, I think this is a great example, too, about how if you are using, you're playing Russian roulette.
Absolutely,
it's just a matter of time. Well, anyways, with all that said, Eric, we've been going for 2 hours, and you are a rock star, brother. You make a great guest, and I hope to have you back on the podcast again someday. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and giving us your perspective on the news and all those things. And thanks again. Anything you want to add before we wrap up, brother?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, well, you really made for a great guest, and we can't thank you enough for being on today. Dean, anything you want to add, brother?
I'm still in shock over that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It is crazy.
And it's been a couple of years since we've looked at that taken
picture.
A look at that picture. And to see, I think we might have seen one of those. I just did a Google search. And I said, the picture of the fentanyl covering the penny. And then like 50 of them came up.
Yeah.
So clearly there's a lot of messages out there people are saying. So hopefully the messages are getting more and more and more powerful and I don't know, covers a greater area because it seems to be needed.
Yeah.
And, one thing I just I'm going to stop you from closing out. I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah. Go ahead.
While you're in meetings in recovery, is there ever a moment where somebody says strength in numbers?
Well, in so many words, wouldn't you agree, Eric?
Sorta, yeah.
I mean, isn't being addictive, and isn't that a very solo life? Isn't that a very secret
isolated
life? And to have recovery, there's nothing I've heard. I don't think I've ever heard Glenn say it in the last year's worth of podcasts we've done. But I thought, strength in numbers, why you keep coming back. There's strength in numbers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You can fail by yourself, or
we go on other people's experience.
Yeah. Yep. We help carry each other,
So that's my thought.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to correct what I just said, because what we also say is carry the message, not the addict, because there are all kinds that come around the program. And I've shared this many, many times, saying that y'all taught me, around the rooms, some are sicker than others.
Yes.
And some are sicker than most. So as we said earlier on this show, you will get all kinds. You'll meet some of the best people you've ever met in your life that'll give you the shirt off their back. People like Eric. I've said it before on here, I'll say it again. I don't have many friends, brother, that I know I could call at 3 o'clock in the morning if I was thinking about using and say, bro, I am so sorry to bother you at this hour. I'm really thinking about using, man. I just need somebody to talk to. And you'd probably say, God damn, Glenn, it's 3 o'clock in the fucking morning. All right, come on over, or where you at, And those are the kind of friends you will make in the program. Now, the other side of that coin is you got conners, scammers, schemers, manipulators, opportunists, all
right.
that kind of shit.
Some are in here just to get better at what they did in the street.
And like I talked about earlier, some just wanted to get laid, which we're going to talk about on the episode coming up, all about the 13th step. That's going to be a good show. More to come on that one. But the point I'm making is that, yeah, you'll get all kinds around the rooms, and you'll get what you're looking for. If you want recovery, that is predominantly what you're going to find and what is there too. So, yeah, Dean, you make a good point, man, you know. And even talking about the isolationism, it doesn't start off that way. You know, I think 99.9% of the people you meet will tell you they started getting loaded for social reasons. It makes you more social, talkative, all the things. But then all of a sudden, it starts to close in on you. And like we say, it's fun until it ain't. Oh, the drugs, pain medication works until it doesn't, you know. And so that's unfortunately what happens. And then all of a sudden, you're in that isolate. And you talked about COVID, Eric. Man, during COVID, you know, myself included, that's all people left the house for, was to go see the dope man, or, you know, even with groceries, you could have them delivered, you know what I mean? And people were just isolating at home, you know. So that's a big factor, Dean. It's interesting you brought that up because, you know, isolating is definitely a symptom, I would say, of the sickness when people are in the, you know, the tail end of it like that. So being around, because human beings are social creatures by nature. So, you know, when we're around other people, I think we do start to feel more and more a part of and things to that nature. And then, like you said, Dean, strength comes in numbers, you know, and that's so important, especially for new people, to build what we call that support system, you know. And so, Eric, you absolutely are part of my support system. I'm forever grateful to you for your friendship, and of course, grateful to you as well for being a guest on the podcast. And Dean, as always, you're a rock star behind the scenes, handling all the things. Dean juggles a lot over there, man. He's handling the graphics, the camera angles, the mic levels, the lighting, and, you know, the audio visual and all the things. So we really do appreciate you, Dean. And with all that said, everyone, we will bring episode 3 of season 2 of the Dare Me podcast to a close. We appreciate you tuning in. As always, if you would, maybe subscribe to the channel, like, share, follow. We're out there on Amazon, we're on Apple, we're on iHeart, all your favorite podcast platforms. And of course, if you like watching too, the Dare Me podcast YouTube channel, you can also follow us on all the socials. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, all the things. So with all that said, thanks again for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time on the Dare Me podcast. Peace.